Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Fully Functional TNG Podcast, and welcome to our Season 1 recap episode.
Are all the ships called the Enterprise?
When I think about rewatching it, I'm like, do I have to?
I support Wesley for dictator.
October isn't a star date.
There's a mall in this freaking spaceship. If Picard did that to me, sploosh. I just watched this episode and I've already forgotten so much of it. Merd.
Yeah, so today's a bonus episode. We're going to discuss our thoughts and feelings about Season 1.
So feel free to skip if you don't give a shit.
No, don't skip. Listen to us.
Yes.
Don't skip.
Listen
Wow,
to every
pushy.
second of every episode.
Yes, do it. Listen to us.
We usually start off with Dory's recap, but since this is a special occasion, we're going to start off with something different. Dory, I would like to ask you, because this was your idea to do this podcast in this premise, I was wondering, what were your expectations going into this, and how did that compare to, like, what actually happened?
Okay, so my expectations of the show, honestly, I didn't know a ton going into it. I just knew you guys liked it and were big fans.
Really? How'd you deduce that?
And Jeff, you had your crazy spreadsheet.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, look.
Oh, yes, I think we've mentioned that a couple times, but we should explain that. Jeff has made a spreadsheet for TNG and DS9, I believe.
Yep.
Where he basically says whether you should definitely watch the episode, you can watch it, but it's okay if you don't, and definitely skip.
Yeah, the point in the spreadsheet was, I had a roommate at the time who I managed to get into Star Trek by showing him one episode of DS9. So I did the DS9 one first, and I put together this entire spreadsheet of the whole series, season by season, because I knew the series really well, so I could kind of do judgment points. I used Memory Alpha for a little bit of like, does anything important happen here? And I essentially arranged it so that anyone who is completely new to Star Trek could go in, look at this, and even if it's not a great episode, if it has something important, I label it as such, and then I kind of judge whether it's just a fun episode but not necessarily important, and whether you should skip it altogether because it absolutely blows and has no value whatsoever. And God, there are a lot of those in the early seasons.
Yes.
In TNG especially, I swear to God, in my first season part of the spreadsheet, I think I skip about half of the first season, because there's a lot of important things in it, obviously, that come up again later on, but half of it I just consider not even worth watching, because you see it once and you're like, cool, well, there's an experience that I had for 45 minutes and don't want to repeat.
Yeah, that spreadsheet was like kind of what made me think about this, and because like you showed me for all the seasons, but of course I didn't really I didn't read it particularly thoroughly because I also wasn't sure how interested I was in watching Star Trek at the time. But the one thing that the one thing I did remember though was the racist episode
Yes.
that you had on there, which
Yes.
ended up being Code of Honor.
Code of Honor, which I literally just labeled.
You just wrote racist episode.
Yeah.
And I was like, what the hell? And I think I remember you saying, don't, if we watch it, that like, he goes, don't worry about it. You don't want to know. It's like, okay. And then here we are.
Oh, yeah. Was Jeff right?
Yeah. I'm horrified by that episode. Okay, so I kind of had a tiny idea from Jeff's spreadsheet, but then I remembered the commercials when I was a kid of, I knew Picard, like I knew Patrick Stewart. I had no idea anything about the character. It was Data. Data is who I remembered seeing like in promos when I was a kid on, actually on a channel called The New VR.
Oh, yeah.
I remember that.
I forgot about the new VR.
I think they obviously, because I was too young when it originally came out, so but it would have been when I was like, I guess late 90s or something, when I guess it was reruns, but I remembered seeing Data on, I think it was the New VR, or if it was City TV, something like that. It was one of the, like a Canadian channel that was obviously reruns, so it was in syndication for some kind. But I really didn't know what it was actually about, because also at that point, like I still didn't know what the original Star Trek stuff was either. But I think the thing that sort of surprised me the most is I thought the show was going to be way more serious.
They did bill it as that.
Yeah, I thought it was going to be just like way more drama and serious. I didn't expect, for lack of a better way to describe it, to go through every emotion on the spectrum while watching this show.
Fair.
Because truly, it also, honestly, the biggest surprise was how horny this show is.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
I had no idea.
Gene Roddenberry was incredibly horny, and it
Yeah.
came out very heavily.
Honestly,
Yeah.
rewatching it, like, I knew there was some horniness to it, but rewatching it and, like, watching it, like, with purpose and in depth, yeah, I also was surprised by just how horny the show was.
Yeah. I also found it was also way more fun than I anticipated. It was kind of, I suppose it's also from like its time period. It was like a little kind of corny, but like not in a bad way. It was also kind of, I suppose it's just like because the way we watch stuff now, like more sci-fi stuff, this all seems kind of like not silly, because it's not silly. It's just like it doesn't seem, maybe back in the late 80s, early 90s when this was airing, it was probably a bit of a different tone because
Very much so.
yeah, because of the sci-fi stuff we see now, everything's so dark and serious and like everything. It's just so. It's kind of an event, but not an event. It's just taken so incredibly seriously. This just felt way more fun, and I appreciate it.
It's like borderline sitcom-y sometimes.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah. But I enjoy it. I think it took a while for me to sort of get into it, but yeah, I would say unfortunately, but it's not really unfortunately. I'm invested now.
Yeah.
And you know what really kind of made me click that like I'm in it for like the long haul is when Yar was killed.
Oh, really?
Interesting.
Yeah, because I cried for like 20 minutes after I finished the episode.
Oh, no.
And the entire time we recorded our episode about that episode, I was literally on the verge of bursting into tears at any moment.
Oh, no.
And I was like, no, it's okay. It's okay.
Yeah.
And I was like, shit, I care about these characters.
Yeah.
I was like, damn it. Now I know I'm fucking in it.
It's amazing because they didn't even give you that much to work with.
I know. I think it's just, I feel like because like if you're just watching the show, I don't think they gave you a ton with Yar. I mean, she's in there a lot. She definitely got more to do than Troy did, but like it did feel though like, I guess because we spent so much time discussing motivations, and so it feels like I spent more time with her than we actually did.
Yep.
Because we discussed her. So she's just such a fucking badass, and she was so cool, and it just, yeah, that's what really made me like realize shit, like I'm in it. I'm invested. And yeah, because I didn't expect, first of all, I didn't expect anybody for consequences.
Yeah. Didn't expect anyone to die.
Yeah, I didn't expect to care that much too. So when she was killed, I was so like, for those who listen to the episode, there's a very different tone, specifically like in that, obviously that episode, but like I am pretty wrecked during the recording of that episode.
Yeah.
And I'm not subtle about it.
Yeah. We record immediately after we watch an episode.
Yeah, I think we like recorded like, I think it was like half an hour. So I had like literally just stopped crying.
Yeah.
For us to start recording. But yeah, so now I'm like, I know I'm gonna be wrecked if like one of these other idiots that I like on this stupid show, none of this, they're not idiots, it's not a stupid show, but I'm just like, I didn't anticipate to like the characters as much as I ended up.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm in it.
Yeah, even though they haven't given you much to they haven't given you much yet, but there are some nuggets to grab onto.
Yeah, you're
Yeah.
familiar enough with them by this point.
And I think also, like, from watching all these episodes, you sort of get to recognize, even though we don't know a ton about the characters, there's still little, like, bits and pieces here and there that, like, are close to my heart. Like, when I was putting together different categories for this episode, one of the categories is related to the weird shit Riker does.
Yes.
And which I never like, and it made me like him more because if you think about all the weird posing he does, all the weird like gestures, and I'm like, what the fuck is wrong with him? But also I kind of love it.
Yeah.
And like it's like with all the characters, there's something about them now that I have an emotional attachment to, which honestly, the show almost doesn't deserve it because they didn't present this shit on purpose. A lot of it is like accidental.
Well,
and it's also partially because we've spent so much time like, I don't think they sat down and were like, hey, Riker, laugh like an absolute psychopath.
right.
Like on these pile of rocks. So, but I think it's also, we spend so much time discussing it that it kind of like, I don't know, makes them feel real.
Yeah, you get more invested because,
because we're discussing it. And I talk about it now with like some of my other friends who watch TNG. Yeah, it's kind of opened my eyes to like a whole different thing with it. And I like it. I like the show.
I'm glad to hear that.
So this isn't something that they're doing with newer Star Trek, unfortunately. But the thing about 80s and 90s Star Trek, it was very much about having an ensemble cast. And so they are focusing quite heavily on making sure that every character, even if you don't get to know them that well, has a very distinctive personality from what very little you get from them. And I think that really makes them stand out quite well. So, like, even though we didn't get to know Yar, we generally knew what her attitudes were towards things, because in what little dialogue she had, she did give us a distinctive personality.
I was rooting for her.
Yeah, it was very tropey, but it was like...
Yeah, it was.
There was something there.
Yeah.
I feel like New Trek, you're right, I feel like that is missing.
Yes.
Like the characters they focus on are really good.
Yeah.
Like, I always thought that, like, Star Trek was great with characters, because I felt like that was mostly the strength of the show.
Yes.
I mean, like, obviously, as we've discussed, the first season is rough with that. But yeah, like, now that you mention it, I think that is a point. Like, the characters that are sort of, like, tertiary are really, like, there's just nothing there.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's too bad because, like, in Discovery, for instance, I know you haven't gotten to the rest of Season 3 yet, but there are, like, there's episodes that focus on some of these characters, and the new ones they're doing quite well with. But even though we've had episodes that focus on some of the older ones, the ones that have, like, always been on the bridge, for instance, I still don't feel that their personalities are all that distinctive. They're just kind of following plot points. And even though the characters in TNG are tropey in the background, they still have distinctive reactions that, like, personify who they are. Like, sure, Worf is just angry, fight, like, why don't we shoot it? It is without honor all the time, but that's distinctive. That's not something you would expect from any of the other characters and their reactions to things.
Yeah, because that is, like, very one note. You know, that's like, I want punch. But it's like, you know, with, like, you know, Ensign Daft Punk, like, we didn't know anything about them.
Very true. And still got a character death.
Yeah, and it's like, okay, just to make my position clear, I like Discovery. I enjoy New Trek for what it is.
Yeah.
It's not the kind of Trek I'm used to, but I do enjoy the show. However, I knew immediately that character was going to die because, like, all of a sudden we're spending all this time with this character.
Yes.
When we've spent zero time with them before.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, they're gonna kill this person.
That happens in original series too, because it was a lot less of an ensemble thing.
Yeah.
So they would, like, bring in a new, like, side character and it would be like, oh, they're gonna die.
Yeah. Or, like, it'd just be like, hey, Dory, have you ever heard the term red shirt?
Yes.
Okay, so where that comes from is, so in original series, security officers wore red. They changed it for TNG. They switched the colors. They switched what gold and red mean. So, but
you mean mustard and maroon?
Yeah. So, yeah, that's what you need to know is that, like, in original series, security officers wore red. So when there would be an away party, when they go down to a new planet, it would be like, okay, Kirk, Spock, Bones, and random guy with the red shirt would go down. And
Ensign Jackson, and he's just like, ah, damn it.
Yeah. So that guy would always die. Which is why when there's just like a random character we've never met that's like part of like the main episode or part of the main action, that's why they're usually referred to as a red shirt, because like they're there just to die. And to like make the stakes higher, you know.
That doesn't really happen on TNG to the same degree. Like, it does happen occasionally, but I think more red shirts die under Kirk than anyone else.
Yeah, for sure. But, like, in The Big Goodbye, there's that, like, anthropologist we've never fucking met before, and it's like,
yes.
Okay, you exist to be shot. That's the only reason you're here. It's because they don't want to shoot one of the main characters. And actually, so... Yeah, I wanted to go off your point, Dory, about like being invested and, you know, liking the show after watching its worst season. Is after watching season 1 again and like watching it with this much intent and purpose, I feel like I need to give it more credit than what I usually do. Not too much. It's not good by any means. But I think, like, because I always wondered, how on earth did this show even get to season 2 or even get to season 3? Because I think they had a 2-season deal off the bat. I forget.
I don't recall that, but you could be right.
Yeah, I think there was something that, like, guaranteed they got to season 2 despite, like, the first season being shit. But I don't remember. So don't quote me on that. But yeah, rewatching it, I'm like, there's more good stuff in here than I remember. And there's definitely stuff in here I could see people latching onto, especially if you were craving a new Star Trek. I think Data is great immediately.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, agreed.
Yeah, like besides his very weird intro, like after that first scene, Data's great immediately.
Yeah, Data very quickly falls into the role of the Spock of the series.
Yeah, they usually try to have like a Spock kind of
a character who's like fish out of water.
Fish out of water and has like limited or no emotions. Because that was kind of Spock's role, is that he was like very... I mean, he's a Vulcan, so he's very analytical, little to no emotion, etc., etc.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's what surprised me in rewatching the first season is, man, there's more good stuff than I remember there being. There's still a lot of bad. Don't get me wrong. There's still a lot of bad, but I think the first season deserves a touch more credit than it usually gets.
I think where I stand with it is season 1 is definitely uneven, and I think it struggles more often than not. Mm-hmm. Looking back at my watch list right now, 5 of the first 8 episodes are red, do not watch.
Yeah. Oh yeah. How does your list compare now that you've seen it again?
It's pretty much on point with exactly what I thought about it, to be honest. There's 8 episodes that are just flat out do not watch. There's a bunch of them which you are supposed to watch because they introduce important things. And then there's a handful of episodes that are like, you can watch them. They're not terrible. But yeah, it is rough. And I do see why they got a second season if they didn't have a 2-season deal at this point. Knowing what I do about what's going on behind the scenes, I'm actually amazed that it came out with the level of quality that it did and the amount of consistency that it did, even though it's still quite uneven, because the writer's room was going through hell. You know, it was a disaster. They were losing people left, right, and center. There were power struggles going on at the top. We're going into the second season, and we have our second showrunner already. So, you know, there's an issue. But he's kind of still co-show running it with Gene Roddenberry, so that's going to make things complex. And it has already made things complex, as he literally sent him off on a vacation so that he could try to rein in the show a little bit.
Yeah.
There's something that I mentioned to Dory before we started recording. One of the things that really stood out to me is, although there are episodes I don't like, none of these episodes are filler. Every single one of them has an idea behind it. And they generally were thinking forward with, we want this show to be interesting in every episode. They weren't always successful, and that's how it happens when you're writing a show with 26 episodes in a season.
Yeah.
But the fact that it's very clear every episode has like a genuine, we want to tell like an interesting story behind this. I like that, and I appreciate it, because I've watched a lot of old shows over the years, and there are filler episodes. That's just how it works. Everything from like X-Files to Seinfeld has them.
Yeah, there's a couple episodes. There's 2 episodes that I would argue could be considered filler, but they're not straight up filler.
I think what I mean is that knowing the backstory behind them, they all had like they were going into this with bigger ideas than and they might not have been successful at conveying those ideas. That's actually more common than not this season. Hey-o. But I don't think that they went into this with just like, oh, we're just producing another show kind of thing. Like there is genuine passion behind the franchise. There is passion in the writer's room, in whoever the fuck decides to stay during the god-awful disaster going on there at this point. Yeah. But I am not going to go back to this season anytime soon, and I absolutely recognize why I won't. And this actually makes me more excited for what's to come. I went through season 1 and 2 and some of 3 a number of years ago. I was dating someone, and we had started watching through that, but then we kind of fell off the wagon with it. And season 1 I still think is too rough to really go through more than once. But now that I have gone through it again, and I'm not like totally bored, also like analyzing it more as we're going through it, it gives me a somewhat different appreciation for it than I had before. It's not great, but it's not the worst thing in the world. It's just real shit compared to what's going to come.
Yeah. Is there any episode that you've changed your mind on rewatching it or watching it this way?
Yes, actually. I thought Heart of Glory was much better than I initially thought it was. That's the weird Klingon episode.
Yeah.
It's awkward, and there are definitely way better Klingon stories come up, but it was pretty enjoyable. I quite liked seeing that first look at the Klingons, seeing them act a little bit different than before. Or sorry, than I'm used to seeing them act. And I gained some appreciation for what was going on behind the scenes with the director, like trying to make that ending shot way more interesting. And so I definitely changed my thoughts on that one a bit.
Yeah, because I think I feel the same way, because I enjoyed, even though there's problems with that episode, I enjoyed the dynamic of all the Klingon stuff, and I really enjoyed. Actually, no. I was going to say I enjoyed Worf, but I realized I enjoyed the other Klingons more.
Worf isn't much.
I enjoyed Worf's final speech.
Yes, that was great.
Yes.
Because for once, it wasn't just a speech about honor.
Yeah. I mean, it kind of was.
It kind of was, but there was more to it than that. They were really discussing like a moral point rather than just, but he is without honor. Yes, Worf, we know. Everyone you don't like is without honor.
Actually, so I think it would be fun, Jeff, if we went through your chart for season 1.
Oh, absolutely. Okay, well, I've got it open right now. Encounter at Farpoint obviously are must-watch episodes because, they're important.
Yeah, I would agree.
I marked The Naked Now as do not watch, even though it is a lot of fun. But
yeah. I think rewatching it, I disagree now.
Yeah, I might disagree with that too.
I love that episode.
But also, keeping in mind, this is for people that are I'm trying to give a first impression of like what Star Trek is about, and Naked Now really doesn't capture what Star Trek is very well going forward.
Yeah. But like, I mean, we have a newbie with us, and she really liked it. It's fun.
Yeah, but
it just was such a wild episode.
Yes, it is fun.
Yeah.
But it is not an episode that I would say this is what Star Trek is about. Because that was what I was trying to put forth with this thing. This is a watch list for people who want to get into Star Trek, not who just want, a fun episodic show. That's one I would point to someone to go give a shot later to, so maybe I'll take it out of the red and put it in a maybe watch this.
Yeah, you could add a little note, like maybe skip on your first go around. And then come back to this.
Code of Honor I've labeled actually racist.
Yep.
Yep.
Definitely agree. That's a do not watch.
Even though The Last Outpost introduces the Ferengi, I feel like there is nothing redeemable or useful going forward in how they introduce them. So I
No.
just kind of put down introduces the Ferengi so badly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hate them.
Yeah, you can probably skip The Last Outpost, but the
Yeah.
Ferengi are
They're reoccurring.
Yeah, the thing is like, for me, because I've seen the series, it's fun seeing where the Ferengi started.
Yes, absolutely. It is funny. It's just stupid as fuck, too.
Yeah.
Again, it's another thing that's like, it's interesting as like, I guess, character study of a sort on the species later on, but only later on. Mm-hmm. Where No Man Has Gone Before, I labeled must watch because
it has gone before.
Oh, sorry, No One Has Gone Before, because it introduces the Traveler, which is important. Lonely Among Us, I labeled Do Not Watch.
Yeah, I'd agree. That episode's pointless. Dory, that's the one with the snake and goat people.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Ugh.
The Data and Sherlock Holmes stuff is a lot of fun,
Yes.
Yes.
but it's the minority of the episode. It's maybe like 10 minutes out of the whole episode.
Yeah, if you want to see the intro of Data's fascination with Sherlock Holmes, then you need to watch it, but I think for the purpose of your list, where it's like, if you want to see what Star Trek is about, yeah, probably skip that one.
Yeah. Just as I labeled Do Not Watch because it's preachy and doesn't tell its story very well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'd agree. That episode's... Yeah, you know what? It was fun talking about it, but that episode was like, eh.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. The Battle is a can-watch episode, not because I think it's particularly good, but because it introduces a little bit about Picard's past that is stuff that you get through context later on. It's an interesting character story. It's just not a very well-told one.
Yeah, I think it's a bad version of something they end up doing well later on.
Yes, I'd agree with that.
Because I think the sort of vibe of this episode is kind of the vibe that the show ends up being.
Yeah,
But it's
yeah,
just
I'd agree with
poorly
that.
executed.
Oh, that's an understatement. Mm-hmm. Hide and Q is a can-watch episode because while it is fun, it really has like no ramifications going forward.
Yeah, it doesn't even like... It doesn't even have anything important with the Q storyline.
No, I'd say it's one of the few, I think, one of 2 Q episodes that it's not important in any way. Mm-hmm. What else do I have? Oh, I have Haven, because that introduces Loxana Troy, who is important.
Yeah, that's...
that is a must-watch,
yes.
because it introduces Loxana Troy.
I like that episode. It's not like... If you want to know what Star Trek is about, I don't think it's a great episode.
No, but it is important for context. The Big Goodbye is not a must-watch, but it is a can-watch.
I love that one.
I ended up going back and like enjoying it this time around. I'm like, you know what? This isn't bad. This is all right. I don't know that there's anything all that distinctive about what it does, because like there's other holodeck stories and there's better holodeck stories, but I mean, this one has some fun Data moments. It has a lot of fun Picard moments, which is great because
Yeah.
you don't get that very early on in the series.
Yeah, for me, it was fun to watch for this podcast, but I'd probably still keep skipping it.
Yeah, so would I. That's why it's a can watch.
Yeah.
Data lore is a must watch for obvious reasons.
Yes, and I thought that was a good episode. I thought that also kind of captures the vibe of what Star Trek becomes. It's a little rougher, obviously, because it's still the first season.
Everything in this season is.
Yeah.
Angel 1 is Do Not Watch. That's the reverse sexism episode.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, where Riker wears the sexy outfit, quote unquote.
Yeah, I was going to say, yeah, quote.
Yeah, I'd agree. That's definitely skip this. It's pointless.
Yeah. 11001001 is it's a can watch episode. I don't think it's bad.
No.
I don't think it's great either. I think its resolution is a little weak.
Yeah, I think that episode is pointless. There's one little thing about it that pops up in an episode way down the line.
Yeah, but that's in like the 6th season, so I don't really think it's important enough to really mention at this point in time.
Is it Minuet?
We can't talk about what it is.
Yeah,
It's a
we can't
surprise.
talk about what it is. But yeah, I think you're right. You don't have to watch that because that the thing they bring up is so minor.
Too Short a Season, I actually labeled a must-watch episode because I think that while the episode itself, it's not a great character episode, it doesn't really do anything for our characters, it is essentially the kind of morality story that TNG keeps coming back to.
Yes.
And it really is one of the best early examples of it.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Too Short a Season is definitely along the lines of something they do, but they fall short in integrating the main gang into the into the story.
Yeah.
When the Bow Breaks, I actually labeled as a can watch. I might want to change that to must watch because going back to it, that's very peak Star Trek.
Yeah, I've always liked that episode, and I thought Wesley was great in that episode too.
Yeah, me too. And I mean, at the time that I wrote this, it was very like, you don't want to get to know Wesley. But like, if somebody doesn't go into it with that conception, then I think it holds up pretty well. So I may want to change my tone on that and give it another shot.
Yeah, Dory, that's the one where they kidnap the kids off the Enterprise.
Yeah.
Which one is Home Soil again?
Oh, that's the ugly bags of mostly water.
Yes, that one is a can watch because it's a hard sci-fi story. I might want to change that to do not watch because it's not really good.
Yeah, it's a pretty like whatever episode. Like
it's completely forgettable.
Yeah, that episode doesn't matter.
Yeah, in any way. Except for the line, ugly bags of mostly water. Coming of Age is a must-watch episode because
Yes.
it is
yeah.
important.
Yeah,
I like that one.
it's important for the Remick stuff, obviously.
Yes.
And rewatching it, I really like the Wesley stuff.
Yeah, me too. I thought it was very well done. I did note that the episode is hammy, and I still agree with that.
And that's the thing, is before rewatching this, I really didn't have any strong feelings about Wesley either way. Rewatching this, I like Wesley.
Yeah.
Yeah, me too.
The boy.
The boy.
Will Wheaton, we stand you. Please do
Yeah.
not shut up, Wesley.
Yes.
Yes. Always talk, Wesley.
Okay, we've got Heart of Glory, which I'm going to change to must watch because
Yeah.
it was good.
Yeah.
That's a good episode.
And you get like your first taste of the Klingons.
Yeah, and it is a good taste. I will give it that. I enjoyed it. Arsenal of Freedom, do not watch.
Oh,
Yeah.
You don't have to guess why.
Yeah.
I called it Super Weapons Are Bad, the ham-fisted episode.
That's one of those episodes where I could argue that it's filler. But I do think that they had an idea they wanted to get across. It just didn't work out.
Well, that was the one I told you went through like heavy rewrites that got kicked in the ass, and it had like the most important stuff out of it was removed.
Right, yeah.
We have Symbiosis is a can watch.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I think that's like a moral question that
Yes.
like captures the same kind of tone as later on.
Yes. Skin of Evil is a must watch for obvious
God.
reasons.
Yeah.
Oh, my God. The spiral.
Rest in PCR.
Yeah.
We'll Always Have Paris is do not watch, and I do not change that opinion. I do not like that episode.
I personally disagree. I would put it as a can watch because you get some good like insight into Picard's character.
Yeah.
But I feel like none of it is really consequential going forward.
Yeah, that's fair. Dory, what were you going to say about the episode?
Oh, no, I enjoyed the episode.
That's fine. And I mean, people's opinions on these are going to differ, obviously.
Yeah.
This is
Oh, for sure.
This is, again, an opinionated list, and it is important to remember that my opinion is not the be-all, end-all of Star Trek opinion. I am just one white man who, of course, has the opinion of every other white man.
Yeah. And the thing is like, while I don't agree with like every single pick that you have or like every single categorization that you have,
Yeah.
I think that it is a good general guideline for someone who wants to get into Star Trek but doesn't know where to start.
Yeah. I mean, that's the whole point in this.
Yeah, give them like the best of it, you know, or stuff that like has consequences to it.
Yeah, because I have no desire in the end for this to be like, okay, just never watch these episodes. Mm-hmm. It's just, this is a good like way to introduce the series to someone so that they don't get bored while they're going through it, you know?
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the major important things about Star Trek because of just how fucking long it all is. Mm-hmm. If you can condense that down to even like half of it, which is I think what I tried to do, then that is definitely what it's a good way to like single out, hey, I enjoyed stuff, now I can go back to it later.
Yeah.
All right, what's our last two? Oh, they're both must watch. Conspiracy and the Neutral Zone.
Yeah.
The Neutral Zone is important because it reintroduces the Romulans and points out that they're going to be a big thing going forward. Conspiracy, for obvious reasons, that was just...
It traumatized me.
That's fine. That's fine. And it should have.
Yeah.
I will never recover from that episode.
So this is our weird, horny first season.
Yeah. So I guess we should get into our top stuff.
Yeah.
Dory created a list of sort of like different
favorites.
Different favorites. So I think we'll go through that now just to get a deeper appreciation for this season.
So the first one then was favorite lines. So I have a handful, and they're sort of a mix of like ones that I found very funny, but also like ones that I was like, oh no, or like that hits you, and like, oh God. So sentimental or like serious, and then the lols ones. So I've got a couple from The Naked Now, because if you can't tell by now, I love that episode. It's so weird. Data goes, this is right at the beginning of the episode, when they're in the that frozen room with all the dead naked people or something.
Yeah.
Data goes, indications of what humans would call a wild party. I don't know, I like that a lot.
Yeah.
The next one that I have is actually related to the title of our podcast, though Yar has a line relating to it earlier. So Picard goes, good, Data, at least you're functioning. And then Data responds with, fully, Captain.
Yeah.
Fully.
Well, that's after, like, Yar I think, asks
She
him.
says, yeah, like, are you fully functional?
Yeah.
Their exchange was just, like, kind of long, so I didn't want to type up that whole thing, too, but yeah. Thank you to Yar and Picard and Data for the title of our podcast.
Well, Data's like a treasure trove of good lines.
Oh, so good.
My sort of, like, favorite non-Data line is in the Hide and Q episode, is, like, after Riker's weirdly laughing on the rock. And Q's like, like, why don't you share the joke with me? And Riker's like, the joke is you.
Yeah.
I think that's, like, one of my favorite comebacks.
It's pretty great.
Mm-hmm.
Next I have, it's actually weirdly enough from Code of Honor. Picard goes, by our standards, the customs here, their code of honor is the same kind of pompous, strutting charades that endangered our species a few centuries ago. We evolved out of it because no one tried to impose their own set of, I'm sorry, this is becoming a speech.
Oh yeah, that's right. Where they kind of like cock tease explaining the Prime Directive to you.
Yeah, and then he's just like, oh, I'm sorry, this is becoming a speech. I'm like, what? Okay. And then the rest of these are kind of short. I just like the from Where No One Has Gone Before, Wesley goes, my name is Wesley, Commander Riker. And then Picard goes, he knows, we all know.
Yeah. Like, very really aggressively.
I love when Picard just like yells at Wesley for no reason. It's just, it's so unnecessary. But because like for Picard, we know him to be, I guess at this point, like pretty, calm, collected, patient, except with like what. But then there's times with like Wesley and other things that he just like loses it. And I find it very funny. And then I have a couple from The Big Goodbye. Picard's, she's a lady, all right, and her name is Enterprise.
Oh my God.
Oh, and I love the guy's response where he's like, sounds like a working girl to me.
Yeah. This next one might be a bit surprising, but Cyrus Redblock, the villain, in quotes, from that episode, he goes, senseless killing is immoral, but killing for a purpose can be quite often ingenious. I was like, oh, shit. That's, it's not funny, but it is something to think about.
Yeah.
Then in Coming of Age, I really liked that guy who was like yelling at Wesley, but then Wesley just like decides, I'm not taking this. And he's like, who do you think you're bullying? You bumped into me. It was your mistake. You were at fault. And then the best line, do you want this to become violent?
Yeah, it's super funny coming from
like,
Wesley.
Yeah. And then I think my last favorite line is actually Worf. It's from Heart of Glory, and he goes, "The true test of a warrior is not without. It is within. Here is where we beat the challenge." And he's like hitting his heart. I was like, Worf.
Yeah. That whole last exchange was great in that episode.
It was so good. Yeah. Those are my favorite lines throughout the season. There was honestly quite a lot to choose from. There were some really good lines this season.
Yeah. I thought like that weirdly, there's some really good moments of writing in these episodes. Like I think
Yes.
okay, there's some great moments of dialogue writing.
Yeah.
In these episodes. The sort of story and structural writing, not so much.
No, not at all. I think that going through season 1, like over the period of a couple of months like this, there's definitely less in this season that stood out to me in terms of like, this is a really standout moment. There's a lot of things I could point out that are funny, but they don't stand out as much as some of the stuff going forward is going to. So I don't know if I really want to highlight anything, because I'm like, this was good. This was fun. I'll just go watch Data Lore again and watch their weird dialogue, and there we go. Thank you for that information too. What? Sorry,
Yeah.
there's an exchange between Data and Lore where they're walking through the hallway, and his last line is "Thank you for that information too," but it doesn't really fit the context of the conversation very well.
Yeah, it's weird. I think that's a good transition into favorite moments though.
Oh yeah. I've got a bunch.
Mine is when Remick blows up.
What?
I love
Fair.
that so much. I know
Fair.
it traumatized you, Dory, but like I'm like, I love horror movies, so that was like, I especially love body horror, so that was like just so much good stuff for me. I love that moment so much. He just like fucking explodes. Especially in like Star Trek. It just blows my mind. Like it blew Remix. Like they just straight up explode his head and then have like this gutted, burnt corpse in a chair. It's just amazing.
Oh god.
Uh,
Oh god.
I think my favorite little like moment like that in the series is actually going back to Injustice, the extremely awkward conversation that Wesley has with the other kids on the planet, where it is just like a really badly hidden sexual euphemism.
Yeah. And okay, so we watched the season 1 bloopers after we finished recording the last episode. And watching the bloopers, they totally did it on purpose because they had an entire montage at the end of sexual innuendos
Yes.
from the
Oh, yeah.
episodes.
Come,
Okay.
I want to show you a game.
Oh god.
Well, there are some games I don't quite know yet.
Yeah.
Oh, Wesley.
Apparently, they were having a lot of difficulty filming all of the dialogue that happened outside in that episode. By the way, because there was it was like right underneath of airplane, like
A flight path?
yeah, flight
Oh
path.
god, yeah. We had the same problem in college.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
And so that's the
yeah.
reason that the dialogue doubly sounds awkward, because most of it is ADR'd.
I think for me, the first thing that like made me lose my mind when we were first started the show. So it's the separation of the saucer section and Encounter on Farpoint. And
It's so-
Encounter at Farpoint.
It's so
I
funny
lost
to me
it.
how like thrilled you are by that.
It just, I didn't know it could do that. And I mean, now it's done it twice in the season. And so the second time wasn't as exciting, but the first time it happened, just, it blew my mind. I was so excited. I was like, I didn't even know this was a thing. So yeah, I loved that.
It'll be way more exciting the next time you see it, because it won't happen for several seasons.
Well, something to look forward to. Then we were spoiled in season 1. We got 2 saucer separations. The next is like every Picard and Crusher scene in The Naked Now. Mm-hmm. Oh, also that little like jump.
Oh yeah, the skip.
Oh,
Yeah.
and the awkward little wave.
Oh yeah, the wave.
We loved it
The
so much
wave
we made
that-
it our logo.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, that episode was just the gift that kept giving.
Yes.
Just there was like that episode truly it made this podcast somehow. Okay, the next one is in Hide and Q. Worf there's a drink in the glass, and
Oh,
he
right.
makes full out eye contact with Q and just dumps out the entire drink and then smashes the glass on the ground.
Yeah, that was great.
The next one is Lieutenant Dan Bell in The Big Goodbye having an existential crisis of what if he's real.
Oh, right.
If his family exists. I just was like, oh my god, this is honestly terrible watching. But man, him just like sitting on the ground, like really not sure if his family exists
Especially since that comes out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Like, because that episode is like, it's such a goofy episode. And then like,
yeah, and then
right
it's
at
just,
the end,
hey, this thing's gonna happen. Yeah. I just found that so wild. Next is from 11001001. Of course, Riker playing the trombone,
Oh,
or
right.
the bone, if you will.
And a bone for me.
Oh, yeah. Then I really liked in Heart of Glory, we got to see Geordie's perspective, like what he sees through the visor. I thought that was really cool. And then lastly, it just like, I found it just so funny and ridiculous, but I kind of love it, is Yar's drug PSA and symbiosis.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I hope this never happens to you, Wesley.
Yeah.
It's really nice. Oh, also Data Sherlock Holmes
Yes.
in Lonely Among Us. I loved that. That was so fun. Yeah, there's just quite of like there's like things here and there that truly just warmed my cold dead heart. But yeah, those are I think my favorite moments from the first season. There's lots of other categories. I can probably go through stuff faster because I think those were just like the longer ones. Okay, then there's like that make me want to scream moments. So stuff that I was so mad. The symbiosis, like almost that whole episode of just like the one group turning the other group into drug addicts. That was very frustrating. The entire Skin of Evil episode, I can't. And also, I like made a whole thing about this in the episode, but in Conspiracy, the fact that like when Dexter sent out the beacon from Earth, that I thought it was a cliffhanger, it was not. The fact that it wasn't a cliffhanger, it's just nothing. It's nothing. And I think that's the same thing with the season finale, where like there's nothing. It just ends nothing. But that bummed me out.
I still have grief with Picard for making Riker manually dock the saucer section. That still really bugs me. It's like so unnecessary, and it's like, why do you want to have this fucking dick measuring contest? Like, like it's so dangerous. There's no reason. It still really bugs me.
It is. It's definitely a choice.
There's no reason to make him do that shit. Like, I guess the story purpose is like to make. What is the story purpose? And is it to make Picard seem like a hard ass?
Is there one?
Is it for Picard to like test Riker's chops or something, or to see like how well he'll follow his orders?
I don't even remember what the context was of the separation.
There is no context.
There isn't really.
Like Riker.
There isn't.
Riker arrives on the ship. Picard's like, "Oh yeah, I guess you're here. Manually dock the saucer section."
As I mentioned earlier on in the season, Picard is absolutely meant to be like an old hard-ass ship captain.
Oh, yeah.
So it could be that. It could be that he's trying to do like, the separation of captain and commander role in that instance. Because that's not really something that the original series had. Like, the captain was all up in there doing just as many things as everyone else. But this captain, they've kind of framed as being separate from the action in a lot of regards. And that is possibly their first attempt at putting an example to that, though it's not a very good one.
Mm-hmm. That reminds me of another moment I freaking love, which is from Encounter at Farpoint, when Picard and Riker are having like their first in-depth conversation, and Picard's like, "Oh, I see you never let the captain go on away missions. Like, do you not respect the authority of the captain?" And Riker's like, "No, I very much do. That's why he should remain on the ship, to be safe." And Picard's like, so you're not gonna bend from that?" And Riker's like, "No, sir. And then Picard just immediately says, hey, help me with kids, I'm bad.
Yeah. And then also, later on, Picard absolutely goes on away missions.
Yes.
So, good job, Riker. Good job.
I think I need to point out that at this point in the series, it seems like Gene Roddenberry's ideas are what's likely holding the series back in a lot of cases. Not in all cases.
Oh, 100%.
But, like, one of the main issues that I've had with it up until this point would be his idea that we saw back in Skin of Evil of, in the 24th century, people don't grieve death anymore. And it's like, but Gene, it's a drama.
Yeah.
Come on.
It's like you have to make people care. Although, I thought they did a really great job with the funeral scene.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, but they were really trying to avoid mentioning that again for a long time because of Gene Roddenberry.
That's dumb.
It is dumb. It really is.
Yeah. It's like, Gene, you're removing all the things that make people care.
Can I segue for a moment?
Yeah, of course.
About something related to that? So I mentioned to Dory that I was going to bring this up in the series, but there is a writing tool. Maybe it's not a tool. There's a writing direction
Tool.
that TNG and further Star Treks until we get into Discovery and the Abrams films have. There's a writer who's, I think he's there in the first season, but if not, he's definitely there in the second season, named Michael Piller, who is quite well known within the behind the scenes part of Star Trek. He was the showrunner of TNG for a number of years. He helped develop DS9, and then he left in the late 90s and subsequently got cancer, and that did not end well.
Oh.
But Michael Piller wrote a book on the third Next Generation movie, the production of it. And he talked a lot about his writing during TNG's run, starting from the beginning. And he described something called Roddenberry's box, or at least that's what he called it. Roddenberry's box is the definition of what the human race is up until this point, and they are limitations in your writing. Humanity is past things like, regular grief, unless they're young or still developing or under the influence of something. Humanity is past jealousy. Humanity is past having petty, angry squabbles with each other, that sorts of things. And this is a limitation on a lot of writing drama. And he did point this out, it was difficult to only make problems with the aliens. Like human problems, and we had to try to find ways of introducing drama between the characters sometimes that would not break this mold. You're allowed to have disagreements, but how are people going to feel about that in a reasonable context without having them act petty and stupid about it? So Roddenberry's box was a limitation on writing humanity, and in the end he felt that box had actually done more good than it had done harm. It was definitely difficult to work with towards the beginning of the series, and we're seeing that very much here in season 1.
Yeah.
But as things go forward, while they do get into a point where Star Trek finds its own tropes and sticks within those tropes, unfortunately, because they kind of run out of ideas while working within this box, it's interesting to see that they create some really original ideas and some original ways to tell very good either moral or philosophical stories within this framework. And I'm liking seeing where it is at this early point, because Roddenberry is definitely pushing it on people as much as possible. But unfortunately right now it's coming out as preachy rather than as just a different type of storytelling.
Yeah, I think you're right in that it definitely forces you to be more creative, and you can't just lean on the standard oh, she cheated on him, or oh,
yeah.
this is a problem that could just be solved by talking to each other, Mm-hmm. But it's a lot of that, it's not only are you limiting your potential for drama and stuff, you're also kind of eliminating a lot of things that just makes people human.
Well, I think that getting into DS9, they did find ways around it.
Yes, for sure. But it's if there's no grief or jealousy or kind of interpersonal conflict, I don't want to say all the negative stuff, but like it's like that's kind of what makes you human, though, is those fallibilities.
I agree with that.
That's the human condition,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and it's like dealing with that I think is immensely interesting.
Well, through characters like Data, we do get things dealing with it going into the future of the series. So, I mean, we both know how this ends up turning out, and it definitely works in Star Trek's favor in the end.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like I said, I'm happy to see where it is at this point in time, and since I know what's coming, I'm happy to see how it's going to evolve into that point from where it is now.
Mm-hmm.
At this point in the series, you've got Maurice Hurley running it, and he came from cop shows. He had never written sci-fi before he got into TNG.
Mm-hmm.
And so his idea of drama and interpersonal conflict came from, here's the villains, they're, the bad guys of this episode and whatnot. And that's where you have to create the drama. And he couldn't do that with this. And I felt like he still came up with some really good ideas. And don't get me wrong, in the end, I'm glad that other ideas prevailed instead of his. But I'll talk at the once we get to a season 2 recap about what he wanted to do and like where he wanted to go with all this. It was definitely a lot less episodic and more like season-long arc kind of idea, which would have been really neat to see this early in the series. But in the end, it does not stay with him, and there are many reasons for that. But we'll get into that later.
It's also that would have been a really hard sell back in like the early 90s.
Yeah. The person who does end up taking over, who is Michael Piller, he's a firm believer in Roddenberry's box, and he was actually recommended onto the show because he was a friend of Maurice Hurley. So it does kind of follow his vision to an extent going forward. But yeah, Hurley actually wouldn't talk about his time on TNG after he left for like 25 years.
Whoa.
Yeah, it was big. He did not leave on good terms. But we'll get into that in season 2.
And that's the thing, is I like the idea of having those limitations of like not falling into like just the easy conflict tropes, However, the way it's coming off in the show and the way it's like sort of came off of Gene is, like I said before, you're removing everything that makes us human.
Yes, but that's kind of the point, to show that humanity is past all of this. That was Gene's idea, and while it is a good idea, it's not a good idea for a television show that's interesting to watch.
Yeah, exactly. But also, okay, and this is an idea after Gene left, but it, for me, like being deeper into Star Trek and I guess being a DS9 fan is like the moral of Star Trek overall. It seems more like that these parts of you, they're not. The moral of Star Trek has always seemed to me, it's fine to have these negative aspects to yourself, but it's about dealing with them properly.
Yeah, I think that fits what we see going forward.
That. Oh, right. I have a better way to put it. That your mistakes and your fallibilities and stuff like that, they're part of what makes you, and they're part of the tapestry of yourself.
What's Picard's quote later on? He has a really good one about making mistakes. Damn it.
I mean, that was my whole reference.
Oh, okay, fair.
Yeah.
Fair. I mean, it's a good one, but I think that quote might even be in this upcoming season.
No, that...
Spoiler. No, I'm kidding.
Maybe.
Yeah, I remember it being pretty early on.
That episode is definitely later on, I think.
Oh, okay then. Well, there's at least some good quotes coming up.
Yes, for sure. It's just, yeah, I guess because I'm more used to it, it just seems like the idea that humanity just doesn't feel these things anymore.
It's not realistic.
It's not realistic, and it feels like I don't agree that it would be a good thing.
It also feels like it makes those sort of things feel trivial now. Like, oh, we're kind of like, babies for giving a shit about when people die.
Yeah.
Or something. Like, oh, we grow out of that. We grow out of giving a shit about other people.
Yeah.
What?
I mean, that is kind of how he sees it.
Yeah.
And that's
It's a little
shitty way
strange.
to it's a shitty way to do it, because like
It is.
Yeah.
how do you how do you outgrow, like, what are you doing then with your life?
Yeah.
Right.
Because our motivations are through our emotions, right? So, like, what are we doing if we don't give a shit?
Yeah.
Right.
Are we hipsters? No, I'm kidding. I'm joking.
We're Vulcans.
Oh, God.
which abstain on pure logic. Actually, no, it's not pure logic. People make that misnomer. It's logic tempered with ethics.
Yes.
Well, I've got none of those. No, I'm joking.
Yeah. Here's the thing. I love and I strive for a world where the idea of a world where we are more empathetic and we don't give in to those negative emotions. We learn to deal with it. You know, we're a compassionate society and all that stuff. But to just eliminate those emotions, I think, like, I don't like that idea because I think that removes a central aspect of, like I said, what makes us human. And I think overcoming that, or like dealing with it, or understanding where that comes from, you know, it just, like, I think that those things lead to, if you deal with them properly, they lead to greater self-understanding and greater empathy for others and all that stuff. So, like, personally, my philosophy is that, not that you should feel those things, but, like, that those things are a part of who we are, and that it doesn't, the fact that they exist isn't necessarily inherently bad. It's that the way you deal with it.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely agree with that.
Or it's not a weakness.
Yes. I think that's a better way to put it. It's not a weakness. This isn't something that, like, we have to grow out of, like Jean puts it.
It's funny because the more we talk about it just right now, it makes me realize, like, this is such a trait of toxic masculinity. It's like the idea of feeling things is bad, and it makes you weak. When, like, so it basically makes me think that, like, Jean would think in the future everybody's just, like, that's the norm, which is messed up. Like, just to maybe that's Jean's idea of masculinity, which is, I mean, from what I've heard about him so far, he's already got some questionable opinions. But yeah, for this ideal, it's the basis of toxic masculinity.
Yeah, like, now that you mention it, I totally see that, like,
because it's not, like, we should be going not the opposite, but, like, different, like, hard left away from that kind of route, because your emotions don't make you weak. That's what makes you, I don't know, stronger. I don't know if that's the right word for it.
I don't know if I agree with that assessment, because with Jean, like, we aren't talking about a situation where he's saying, oh, you know, like, suppress your emotions, like in toxic masculinity. It's more of that these emotions that affect us in negative ways, and also keeping in mind that things like psychology were not at the same level in terms of public discussion at the time.
I suppose it is also a product of its time, like, this kind of idea.
Yeah, very much so.
So it could be chalked up to, like, a combination of all of this stuff. Because likely they weren't thinking of toxic masculinity the way we do now.
Absolutely not.
It was just like, be a man, and, like, that was it. And just, like, the man's way of doing it is the correct way, which is not right. But yeah, I suppose this is the late 80s, so it's a very different context of it.
But the attitude isn't to suppress these things.
Yeah, so I sort of agree with Dory, but not in that, like, and I don't think you're saying this, Dory, but it's not, like, totally toxic masculinity, but there is there's an aspect.
There's, like, an aspect of it. I'm not saying it's, like, explicitly, but there's, like, the aspect of, like, you know, emotions making you weak. That's the part that I'm thinking of in terms of toxic masculinity. I'm not calling Jean toxic masculinity, however you describe that way. I'm not sure to put it. And I'm not saying it's outwardly toxic masculinity. It just, that whole aspect is you know, part of that.
Yeah, the whole thing of, like, you know, this ideal that, like, you just don't have certain emotions anymore, so you don't have to deal with it, definitely is, like, that has sprinkles of toxic masculinity in it, to me.
Yes.
Like, now that you have brought that up, because I didn't think about it that way. in that, like, and I think that's part of why it doesn't appeal to me, is that, like, it's like, oh, we just got rid of these emotions, so now we don't have to deal with it. You know, it's like you just kind of, it's too easy. I guess, like, because as a woman, you think about your emotions, like, all the time. You think about, like, how to regulate them. You think about, like, how you come off to other people. You are constantly dealing with them and dealing with other people's emotions, because as a society, women kind of end up being responsible for the emotions of people around them.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's important to note, though, that Jean in the end was an outspoken idealist, and
yes, for sure.
Obviously, like, this doesn't come from a situation of like, oh, we have to defend Jean's honor, blah blah blah, because Jean, like, had a coke addiction and had problems.
Yeah.
Just like many people with great ideas.
I think I'm not trying to, like, be like, Gene is bad, cancel Gene Roddenberry. That
no, I understand.
Yeah,
I understand.
I know you do. I just want to make it clear for anyone listening. But it's like, it goes a long way towards explaining why I don't like that philosophy.
Okay, that's fair. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just, since Dory mentioned it and I've been thinking about it, it helps me articulate why aspects of it really don't appeal to me.
I think regarding the period in time that this was topical, like, there was a very what was the attitude? There was this kind of movement going on in culture that began to look at humanity as the problem with humanity, and this is definitely consistent with that.
Where's the lie?
Oh, like eco-fascists.
Yeah, but we saw it a lot with sci-fi in the 1990s, especially, where it's like, oh, the problem is human beings.
Yep.
Human beings are the disease, read The Matrix, etc.
I was just going to say that exact quote, humans are the disease.
And where Gene really took this, because this wasn't the case when he was writing the original series, his thought process on this had not developed all that way. There were a lot of episodes about what it means to be human, and they were very positive episodes for the most part, even talking about the negatives. But as we got into him working on the films and eventually working on TNG, his ideal with that, I guess, became more jaded to an extent, because it's a lot more about the reason humanity doesn't have these problems anymore isn't because these things are bad, etc., etc. It's because these somewhat negative emotions, things like jealousy, things like petty squabbles, things like just getting upset at other people for misunderstandings, these are what create the problems in our society. This is why people get killed, because, I mean, Gene lived in the United States, where that's a much bigger issue. This is why people are having, fights over, like, drugs and whatnot. The problem isn't drugs, the problem is emotions, etc., etc.
Which is enlightened for the time.
Yes, it is. It is. So I think that, at least for the time, it does make a lot of sense, and I'm personally look at it as a forward-thinking ideal. It's not a very realistic ideal, and it's something that doesn't fit looking at it retrospectively, 30 years after TNG.
Yeah. I totally agree. Like, I definitely think Star Trek has always been kind of a forward-thinking show, an idealistic show. There's a lot of aspects of the way Gene specifically expressed that ideal and what I got from it that I don't agree with.
Right.
That I don't think is an ideal.
In the end, Star Trek, like everything that has ever been made, is still a product of its time, no matter how forward-thinking it ends up being.
And I even think, like, that it sparks this kind of discussion, though, is one of the strengths of the show.
Yeah, especially even in only the first season, which we can admit has been light on actually tackling its philosophical issues very well.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's the thing, is, like, I'm not trying to say that Star Trek or Gene was, like, completely backwards or whatever.
Nope, Star Trek is backwards and bad.
Yeah, we are applying a modern standard to the show and to Gene Roddenberry. But it was good for the time. But as we do live in 2021, it's not good for our time.
2021 versus Star Trek. Grudge match. Who will win?
So I guess we should get to the next category, which is, I believe, favorite Riker weirdness.
Okay, so weird Riker action or pose. So I have a couple. One is in Coming of Age, when Riker climbs over the chair when being interviewed by Dexter Remick, because that was weird as hell. I liked in Conspiracy, Riker and Admiral Quinn are fighting, and Quinn pushes him across, throws him across the room. He hits the wall, and then he jumps over a table to high kick Quinn.
Oh yeah,
the head. That was so weird.
I love that Riker and Worf go over the same table. They get knocked over on the same table.
That table is got more screen time than some of the cast in that episode. And then in Hide and Q, Riker just laughing like a absolute lunatic on that rock. He also just does weird poses throughout the show. He'll just put his leg up on stuff.
Yeah.
He just loves a lean, that guy.
Jonathan Frakes' acting choices are always interesting.
And to be clear, this is not me bashing. I love this. I think it's so weird, but I am in favor of this weird choices. It definitely makes it. I think it adds to Riker's character, because it took a really long time to sort of figure out what his deal. I mean, still don't know exactly, but
yeah,
I appreciate him more as a character because he does this weird ass shit. Because it's definitely the road less traveled.
Yeah, I gotta say, the Riker maneuver, the chair thing, always gets me. I love it.
It's so funny.
It's a good maneuver.
I just kept thinking, I know 100% I could not do that.
Yeah.
I couldn't climb over a chair like that. I am very short legs. I'm not tall enough for that.
Yeah, especially since those chairs are, the backs are rather tall, too.
Yeah.
He just swings his leg all the way over.
I have no idea how tall he is, but just compared to everybody else in the show, he is very tall. Mm-hmm. But yeah, just watching him swing that leg over, it's so good. Okay, so favorite episodes. I have 3 that I would say are my favorites. Mm-hmm. Obviously, the Naked Now, because it's wild episode, and it I think it sold me more than the pilot, honestly.
Okay, everything sells better than the
pilot. I love the big goodbye. There's just so much in that episode that was fantastic. And Coming of Age, I just thought those were great episodes.
Yeah, that was a really great episode with 2 really dense plots that they ended up really balancing.
Yeah, Naked Now and Big Goodbye are Lowell's favorite episodes, but Coming of Age I thought was really well done.
Mm-hmm. I think my 2 favorite episodes of the season have to be Data Lore, because I love seeing Brent Spiner act with himself. Mm-hmm. And Conspiracy, because I love seeing Remick blow up. And I really... So it's not just for the gore factor. It's honestly, I love the whole tone of that episode, because I just love the creepiness of it. I love the synth music. I love the weirdness, sort of the invasion of the body snatchers type deal.
It's John Carpenter, but Star Trek.
Yeah, I think, and I love John Carpenter, so that's why I love that episode. So those are my 2 favorite episodes of the season.
I'm gonna also give my points to Data Lore for obvious reasons. Mm-hmm. My criticisms of Data Lore still land. It is a little awkward. It could do with some extra scenes to kind of stretch out the context a little bit, because them immediately trusting Lore and the fact that every single line of dialogue he gets is really hokey. Mm-hmm. It's an awkward episode, but it is still so much fun. And I liked Heart of Glory so much more than I thought I was going to. Again,
it's really good.
I can't forget that.
Yeah, special shout out to Heart of Glory.
Yeah, I've always loved Conspiracy. I have maintained for years that if you can only watch one episode in the first season, Conspiracy is the one to go to. But now I'm kind of torn, because that and Heart of Glory are both equally good in different ways.
And I agree with Dory about Coming of Age too. I thought I thought that was a solid episode.
Yes, I'm very glad I have that under must watch for more reasons than one now.
Okay, so favorite character we only see in one episode. This man, who appeared in one episode, has I made a very big deal about, and he has changed my life for the better.
Oh, yes.
It is the newspaper man, played by Dick Miller in The Big Goodbye.
Dick Miller.
The man who thought Data had a tan.
Yeah, he's from Australia. Can't you tell?
That man just is the best actor I've ever seen in my life. And I will never forget this person.
Well, you won't see him again for a long time, but you will see him again.
Yes.
Do we actually? Oh my God, so then he's in the wrong category, technically.
Well, he's not that character. It's that actor,
okay,
but
he's
it's
a
not that
different
character. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Star Trek is a series of many actor reuses.
Okay, well, I'll keep my eyes peeled for Dick Miller in the future, because that was so good. Oh my God. And then honorable mention is Murdoch in A Coming of Age, because he was pretty awesome.
Yes.
Yeah.
He was great.
Yes, I believe I would have helped you. Shifty eyes.
So then we have favorite Data trying to be human moment. Sneezing in Data Lore. That was so freaking weird and so freaking good.
Choo!
Yeah. There's a lot of good ones, though.
It's so funny that because, like, from the bloopers, it's very obvious that Brent Spiner wants to be silly,
Yes.
but he plays Data.
Yeah.
but I think that works. I think he brings a lot to Data's character.
I agree. I mean, he is, at his heart, a better comedic actor than I'd say just about anyone else on the series.
I would definitely agree.
That really adds to his strengths as character.
My favorite is sad. It's the moment at the end of Skin of Evil when he's talking to Picard and he's like, I don't know if I got the point of this gathering. It's at Tasha's funeral, and he's like, I'm only thinking about myself and like how sad I'll be. Like, did I miss the point of it? And Picard's like, no, you didn't. You didn't, Data.
I would like to give a special shout out to that moment. However, the unforgettable Data moment of this series, of him trying to be human or trying to prove to everyone else that he's human, is explaining that he has pores.
Oh, yeah.
If you prick me, do I not leak?
Data's character is amazing. Like, if Data wasn't as good, or if his character didn't exist, I don't think it would have gotten a second season. Like, there would have been nothing for you to grab onto, I don't think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think I agree with that.
Yeah. So we've got the favorite ship moment. So to clarify for anybody who's not familiar with that, it's like favorite romantic ship, or I guess friendship, but in this context, we're doing romantic relationship moment.
Yeah, our favorite, like, romantic headcanon.
Oh yeah, because we're quite the fan club for a few different ships, I guess.
Yeah. My favorite is, I forget which episode it was where Dory, you and I were both like, are you getting like vibes between like Riker and Picard? But we definitely both felt it on that one episode. And then there was, I think it's where No One Has Gone Before, where they're like having the hallucinations or whatever. Mm-hmm. And Picard talks to his mom. Riker comes up on him and is like, hey, what are you doing? And he's like, just wait a minute, my mom's here, or whatever. And then at one point, like, Picard looks confused and stuff like that, and he's trying to, like, get himself together. And I swear to God, it looks like Riker's about to go hold his hand.
Aww. Oh, that's so cute.
Yeah. I love that. Honestly, my favorite shipping moment is when we started this. Because that bit has really brought a lot to my enjoyment of watching these episodes.
Just
like,
any little bit.
Like, I guess just to make sure, like, I don't like seriously believe there's like anything there, but it's fun to insert it because it makes it makes some of the episodes a lot more like interesting and and fun if you think about Riker being in love with Picard.
Oh, for sure. I mean, one of my favorite things is anytime Picard, Dr. Crusher, or Riker call each other by their first names. Mm-hmm. That anytime Picard calls Riker Will, like, okay, save it for the bedroom, guys.
Yeah.
Or Picard calls Dr. Crusher Beverly.
Yeah. Beverly.
Or Jean-Luc. I love that. But I do think my favorite is in the Naked Now. It's the lean. Like, how do I Picard like leaning over Dr. Crusher?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
That's like the number. Like that might be one of the best like shit moments of like any show ever at this point.
Yes.
It just, that will stay with me forever.
She's like unbuttoning her top button and stuff too.
Yeah.
It's kind of it's hot. It really is.
I mean, yeah. That lean will stay with me for the rest of my life.
Not now, Doctor. Please.
I think this is a category just for you, Dory, and that's favorite costume.
Yes, I've got a handful. So, number one, and I think this might be my number one of the season, Q's courtroom judge look encounter at Farpoint.
Oh, yes.
That kicked it off for me. Q is an MVP in this category because he does pull off so many looks in the 2-episode season. But the courtroom one, that really was like iconic.
Yeah.
I loved Lwaxana Troy's her backless dress in Haven.
Yes, that's what I put as my favorite.
She had so many good dresses in that episode. Picard and Data's 1940 suits in The Big Goodbye. Lore's jumpsuit that Maggie and I really liked in Data Lore. And lastly, in Angel 1, Wesley's silver snowsuit.
Oh, yeah.
Just a sci-fi staple.
Yeah.
I loved it. It was so good. Also, honorable mention, Wesley's sweaters.
Yes. Yeah. Especially that orange one. That disaster of a sweater.
Yeah, it's a look. But yeah, I mean, it's nice we got some variety at the beginning, but then for most of the season, he just did the one sweater. But
unfortunately, I don't think we go back to the variety.
I mean, at least we got a little bit of sweaters at the beginning.
Yeah.
I do love a sweater, but good job, Wesley. You are the style icon of TNG.
Jeff, I don't know if you care enough, but do you have a favorite costume?
I do not. Oh, wait, no. Shut the fuck up. Yes, I do. Ferengi fur sash.
Oh, yeah. Actually, yeah, I did. Completed by the dildo whip. Oh,
I do like that they give a shout out to the Ferengi fur sash once in DS9 as well.
Oh, I don't remember
other than that, we never see it again.
Yeah.
Oh, Quark has a little action figure of a character named Marauder Mo.
Oh.
And he's got like a fur sash and he's got the plasma whip and everything, and you're just like, oh my god, they made a toy!
That's amazing. Also, okay, I don't consider this a spoiler, but in Deep Space Nine, there's like a bar in the space station, and the drinking glasses.
Bar?
Yeah, it'll make more sense when we get there.
Yes, it's Cheers.
Yeah, the drinking glasses they use are candle holders that they put upside down.
Oh,
Dory, not only is it Cheers, but they went all out with that by creating a character who's a barfly. He's always there, named Morn.
Oh my god! If I could throw something, I would. But if I threw anything, the only thing I have close to me is a pen, and I don't want to fuck up the walls of my apartment. You know what? Fuck it. I'm gonna throw a pen at my bed. Just turn it off. No, throw it at my door. You probably couldn't hear that, but I threw a pen.
That's okay. I'm sure the Enterprise has a bar too.
Yeah.
I mean, they do have a mall.
Yeah.
That's my own headcanon, is that there's a mall. There's like a
definitely
department
your
store.
own headcanon.
Yeah. Oh shoot, I do need that pen.
The kind of attitude they have about like what the ship's function is, I would not be surprised if there is a mall.
I mean, I'm gonna stand by that for the entire time we do this podcast, is that there's a mall or shopping center in the Enterprise. And I've thrown my pen across the room, and that's bothering me now.
Do you want to go pick it up?
Well, no, I mean, I technically don't need it right now, but it's on the carpet by my front door.
That's fair.
You know what? It was a choice I made, and I have to live with it. Consequences, Star Trek, TNG, you know, maybe
Learn
something
something.
to think about. Yeah. Consequences of your actions.
Hey, Gene, you listening? You listening?
Yeah.
Sir, he's dead. Oh.
We have a seance to be like, Gene, consequences. It'll be like, excuse me, fuck off.
Well, if it isn't the consequences of your own actions.
Exactly. An honorable mention for the entire season of just general awesome, great in everything is a shout out to the Enterprise's AV team.
Oh, yeah.
Because they, you know what? They are responsible for the recap halfway through the first, for the pilot.
Yeah.
They put together the video, and then we see them again when they use screen caps of the episode in too short a season for Mark Jameson. So,
Yeah.
you know, a shout out to the Enterprise's AV team. You guys are the real champs, and I look forward to see what you bring us in season 2.
So there isn't really like a prediction, but what we're gonna do is we're gonna review Dory's predictions now. I have them written out, and we'll see how accurate you were. So there was no prediction for Encounter at Farpoint because that was the start of the whole series. Did you have an expectation of what the episode would be?
No, I truly had no idea what I was going into, which is maybe why I lost my mind at the saucer the separation. It was because I truly went into it with like I didn't know what the first episode was going to be. Mm-hmm. I had no idea.
All right, so your first prediction that we asked you was was for the Naked Now, and this is before we gave you extra hints besides the title.
Oh yes.
Yes.
Okay.
So for the Naked Now, you said, and these are paraphrased. I didn't write down exactly what you said, but you said someone will walk in on someone naked, and they're gonna do the whole "you've seen me naked, and now I have to see you naked" thing. Everybody accidentally sees each other naked. It's gonna get weird, and that you would be mad if there was no naked people.
I wasn't. I was mostly wrong, but not 100% wrong.
Not 100% wrong.
I would watch that episode.
Yeah, I definitely would. There were naked people. There was the frozen people at the beginning. So you got that. And you were right that it's gonna get weird.
Yeah, and it did.
It did. Next is Code of Honor. You said Picard or Riker will have to go against their own personal code, and that something bad would happen as a result of that, and that they regret doing it. So that's not accurate. Because that was the racist episode. That's like...
Yep.
The episode was like they kidnapped Tasha Yar to have a death match with the guy's wife because reasons.
Because plot.
Yeah. Next was The Last Outpost. And you said the last outpost would be a spot on a planet that's empty, and they have to clear it out before it gets bombed or something for resources. And, you know, the crew has to get there before that happens.
That is incorrect.
That was incorrect.
It had already been bombed.
Yeah.
Thousands and thousands of years ago.
Yeah. That episode was, there's some ancient gate or some shit that traps them in the Ferengi. All right, and the next episode is where we started giving you extra hints. So you can also say if you have an opinion on how well we did hinting the episode.
Oh, yes.
So the next one is where no one has gone before. And we told you that Wes becomes close with an older man.
Oh my god.
You say they go to a new planet and Wesley wants to venture off on his own, or he sneaks off from the away team, and he becomes friend with a local older man, and for whatever reason that's bad. So that's not accurate.
No, not even a little.
Yeah, he does.
But they don't even go anywhere.
Yeah.
It's all on the Enterprise.
Well, they did. They went to that, like,
Oh yeah, they went out to like
a
another
different galaxy or whatever.
yeah, sort. But they were still on the Enterprise. But
Yeah.
yeah, I was very wrong.
Yeah. And the thing is, here's the thing. We kind of on purpose want you to be wrong because it's funny. And then if you get something right, it's amazing.
Yeah.
So the next one was Lonely Among Us. And we told you that it involved goat and snake aliens. You said that you hope Troy gets to do something. You said aliens ask the Enterprise for help. And someone's going through a really hard time. And Troy gives them therapy. Yeah, that's not accurate. Troy doesn't get to do anything. And Picard...
Was she even in the episode?
Actually, no, you know what? She does get to do something, because Picard gets kidnapped by an energy being thing. And then Troy gets to say, no, he's still alive. And that's about it.
Thanks for the contribution, Troy.
The next episode was Justice, and we told you that Wes gets arrested. And the first thing you said is Q better not be in this episode. You said Wes accidentally stumbles onto some classified information and gets caught, or someone tries to frame him for stealing or something.
I mean, he does stumble onto something.
Yeah.
Yeah, flower bed.
Yeah. So you got your hope. Q was not in the episode.
Yes.
The episode was actually someone might execute Wesley for falling into a flower bed. The next episode was the battle, and we told you Picard meets a ghost from his past. You said you hope it's a French person that speaks with an English accent. And that
Good job.
And that it would be a childhood friend, and for some reason they'd be the reason a battle started, or they'd be on the opposite side of a battle.
I mean, it was an old friend.
Yeah, it was a ship.
Yeah.
But the ship
buddies.
didn't speak French.
No.
Actually, there's a universal translator on the ship, so it is capable of speaking French. However, it didn't.
Yeah.
Jeez, Dory, you didn't know that?
So the episode after that was called Hide and Q. And you immediately just went, no. We told you Q has a proposal for Riker. You said that Q would ask Riker to betray Picard, and that you wanted looks. So you were actually pretty right about this episode.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oddly enough.
It's not like a direct betrayal that Q asks for, but that is essentially what he's asking from Riker in that episode.
Yes.
And you got your looks in that episode.
Yeah.
I think I think Q has like 5 costume changes or something.
Yeah, there were a lot.
Yeah.
I will say one tiny thing. Now from finishing this season, I like Q better.
Yeah.
Compared to some of the other villains we've seen this season.
That's fair.
Yeah, I guess you had nothing to compare it to.
Yeah, I think it's just I was still so mad from the first episode of like, who the fuck does Q think he is? But now in retrospect, now that I finished the first season, I know Q will eventually come back, and I'm not going to dread it. I'm like, okay.
Most of his other appearances are quite good, actually.
Yeah.
So I'm not as like opposed as I was previously.
The nice thing about it is because of how Q episodes are named, you'll always know in advance that Q is coming
You'll
along.
always know that Q is in the episode. All right, so the next episode was called Haven, and we told you that Troy's mom comes for a visit.
I remember this one, and I'm so wrong.
Yeah. You said that Troy would go visit her mom, and she'd had such a nice time that she questions whether she would stay in Starfleet, and you also said that Riker would finally make a move. Which you were kind of right on that, in that he
barely does.
He's pissy that she's gonna get married.
That's his mood, is that he's a whiny baby.
I love, and because you had completely opposite expectations of Troy's mother than what actually is. And I think they did that on purpose. I think they made Troy's mom, like, opposite of Deanna.
Yes, they definitely did.
Okay, so the next episode was The Big Goodbye, and we told you that Picard explores his favorite holodeck program. You said that in real life, Picard's childhood home would be destroyed, and that he would use the holodeck to go visit it. Which honestly would make for a good episode.
Yeah, I'd watch that.
Yeah. That's another reason I love doing the predictions, is because I like some of your ideas are like, I fucking want to see that as an episode. So I think that would legit make a good episode. But that's not what this episode is. Picard gets stuck on the holodeck in like a 1940s detective novel simulation. Next is Data lore, and we told you that Data meets his long-lost twin. You said that Data would need a tune-up, and that when they went to whatever place to, as you put it, get his tuned up.
All right.
That his,
Liking the sound of this.
Yeah, that his twin would be there, and that he would be evil. And you were partially right. It was an evil twin story.
I mean, that's usually the law, I think, when it comes to TV shows.
Yeah.
And surprise twins is that one of them... I also watched a lot of soap operas growing up. So one of them has to be evil. It's the law.
Yeah. The episode after that is Angel 1. And we told you that it would involve a scantily clad Riker. And then we gave you the extra hint that Angel 1 was the name of a planet. You said that... You didn't really come up with a plot, but you said it would be like a rainforest planet or a really gardeny planet, and that the uniforms would be too hot, so Riker would have to, like, strip down, basically. That's not really what happened.
No, not at all.
No, but I would watch that.
I think it was like they mention that it's like a really
That it's
lush...
gardeny.
Yeah, they mention that it's a
Yeah.
really lush planet, but you never see it.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have anything to do with the episode.
Yeah. I was a little bit right in spirit.
Yeah.
But everything else, no. 100% wrong.
Yeah. The next episode, which I've had to break down so many times, I memorized this fucking number. 11001001. And we told you the crew meets non-binary binary aliens. You said that there would be some robot aliens that need to be programmed, and that the title might be a command to help them, and that there would be sort of a computer virus affecting the aliens.
I mean...
Which, you know what? It's not totally off base. You're kind of on the right track with what happened in that episode.
Yep.
Is that they needed the Enterprise to help, like, save their computer on their planet.
And the code. I was right about the code being, like, the title of the episode being important to...
Yeah, it was like a password or some shit.
Yeah.
The episode after that is too short a season. We told you an elderly admiral confronts his youth. You said the admiral would just be hitching a ride with the Enterprise, and they would go through like a time warp thingy, and he would literally meet his younger self. Or
I mean...
you said that he would do something that he thinks he's still capable of, but he's too old and gets hurt.
I mean...
You know what? This isn't accurate to what the episode is, your first prediction, but that is a Star Trek episode. Like, not literally,
Yes.
but that plot is something Star Trek would do.
Wild.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
That
I
definitely...
think I'm getting the hang of the predictions at this
Yeah.
point. or just Star Trek tropes. But
Yeah.
I was right that he got to... there was the younger version of him.
Yeah, it's not a separate entity. He just
Yeah.
becomes the younger version of himself.
Yeah.
So yeah, you're kind of like... You weren't totally off base. That's definitely something Star Trek would do.
It was in the ballpark.
Yeah. The next episode is When the Bow Breaks. We told you the Enterprise encounters a secret planet that has a desire for the ship's children. You said that a godlike thing, or a big creature, or like some core would need to be run by children and that essentially the children would be kidnapped for slave labor.
A god thing.
Which, honestly, you are not too far off of. Because it was like the people, they needed kids because they couldn't have kids, and they needed them to, like, basically figure out their shit. So you weren't totally off base with that. The next episode was called Home Soil. We told you the Enterprise finds special dirt.
Oh, boy.
And you said that they'd accidentally discover some soil that, like, super grows stuff, and that they would grow something unexpected. And that's it.
I mean, they did grow something unexpected in the end.
Yeah, I guess. I guess you never considered that the dirt would be alive. After that is Coming of Age. And we told you that Wes would take the Starfleet exams. Your first prediction was that Wes took the exams. And then you guessed the B plot, which would be that someone wanted to sabotage Wesley, and that it would be his mom. It would be Beverly Crusher, because she doesn't want him to join Starfleet, or she thinks he's too young or something like that. Which I think would be an interesting episode. However, that's not what happens.
Yes.
I mean, technically there was, like, conspiracy stuff going behind the scenes. It just wasn't about Wesley. Mm-hmm. So I was really wrong, but also...
Someone did want to sabotage something.
Yeah, I was super wrong, but also, like, the tiniest bit... like, there was, like, a drop. Oh, gross. No, that sounds weird. Anyways.
The episode after that is Heart of Glory. And we told you that Worf gets to meet some other Klingons. You said the Enterprise would go to the Olympics, where Worf, hangs out with a team of other Klingons. Not accurate.
Nope.
Well, you said they'd go to, like, a sporting event or like, the Olympics or whatever. But after that is Arsenal of Freedom, where we told you the Enterprise meets the most annoying salesman ever. You said that a guy would ask to hitch a ride on the Enterprise, and on his way there, he would try to sell the crew LSD-type drugs that would make you see freedom. Not accurate, but I would love to see that episode though. Like the whole crew like getting addicted to drugs and shit. That would
Yeah, I'd watch that. Wait, isn't that just Naked Now?
I guess yeah, it is Naked Now. After that is Symbiosis, where we told you we get more plagues and a drug PSA. This you were shockingly close on. Because you said there's a drug that accidentally caused a plague, and the PSA is that if you didn't take the drug, you wouldn't have the virus. Which is, like, shockingly close to what happens. Because the drug, like, it cured the plague, but they're just still taking the drug, and they don't know that they're addicted. So if they stopped taking it, they would basically stop having the plague of drug addiction. Yeah, so I consider you pretty close on that one.
Nice.
After that is Skin of Evil, where we said a pile of goo would change the series forever. You said, and I like your idea, you said that the goo could shapeshift and is evil, which is correct. You said that the goo would sort of clone themselves as one of our main cast members, and they'd like do a war crime or something really bad. And
they would do a war crime.
Yeah, and that it would tie back into the Reddick storyline where they thought someone was trying to sabotage the ship. So basically one of our crew members would get accused of something really bad and get like put on trial and stuff for this thing that is kind of trying to sabotage Starfleet. Which isn't what happens, but that's a really great idea, honestly. But no, it's just a pile of goo kills Tasha Yar. That's it. And he, like emotionally manipulates Troy a little bit.
Oh, and it eats Riker briefly.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Oh, yes.
It eats
yes,
Riker.
it does.
Next is we'll always have Paris, where we said that we meet Picard's ex-girlfriend and that she's dating a man doing weird sci-fi shit. You said that they'd arrive on a new planet to meet with the science guy, and gasp, Picard's ex is there, and that she would put the moves on him, but he says no, I love the Enterprise. And that the science guy's experiments would be, like, shady, and, like, something's not right.
Yo, where's the lie, though?
Yeah.
Other than Janice didn't put the moves on Picard.
Yeah, they dealt with their past very maturely.
Yes.
Which, which rarely ever happens. Yeah. Yeah,
I mean...
the science guy's experiments being, like, you know, kind of shady were correct.
Haha.
Next, we have the second last episode. We have Conspiracy, in which we told you we finally experienced some consequences. So you picked up immediately that it would connect back to the Remick storyline of, like, someone trying to sabotage Starfleet. You said something is causing everyone to be suspicious of each other, and that some external force would try to frame someone in our main gang, which is not a bad idea, but unfortunately that
is wrong.
Yeah, we end up with the man full of bugs.
Oh god.
And last we have your prediction for the neutral zone, where we told you that you'd get to meet an 80s businessman, a Midwestern wife, a Southern hick, and the Romulans. This is one of my favorite predictions, is that you said that they would go to a planet where there's an Earth History Expo. And the Romulans would crash the party and the Enterprise would have to save everybody. Not accurate. They find some some frozen ass people and the Romulans show up briefly.
I was right about the 20th century stuff.
Yeah.
Ish.
Kind of
a tiny bit that there were.
But it wasn't like at a convention.
Yeah. Oh no, for sure.
Yeah, so those were your predictions for each episode. Which some were shockingly close and some were hilariously off. So how do you feel about having them all read out?
I have some strange ideas. Actually, honestly, that being said, can you actually send me a picture or send me a list of like all this list that we just did, because that'll kind of help me give me ideas for when I write my Star Trek episode after we finish season 2, because
sure,
I need to give myself the ideas that I already came up with. Yeah, I think some of my ideas I like better than the episodes.
Yes, I agree wholeheartedly. There was a bunch of times where you were giving your prediction and I'm like, man, I wish that was the episode.
Yeah, same.
But I mean, yeah, it's really quite a spectrum that I got things right and wrong on.
That's a very accurate description of it.
There are episodes where, like, I think the thing I have most in common is, like, there's episodes where I got, like, the tiniest, like, one tiny detail correct.
Mm-hmm.
Versus, like, being weirdly right on one episode or being super, super wrong. I think there's a bunch of episodes that, like, I just got, like, a little...
Yeah,
like
you
a
got
nugget, a little like nibble of a thing correct.
Yeah, you got like one specific detail right.
Yeah.
Kibble of accuracy.
Yes.
Yeah.
The kibble of accuracy.
So now, Dory, to finish off this episode, this very long episode. I mean, this was a recap. It was destined to be long. I'm sorry, folks.
I mean, you can always turn us off if you're bored of us.
No,
don't
do
turn
that.
us off. Listen to all of it. Listen to all of us.
Listen. Okay, so, Dory, I would like to get to what your hopes and possibly what your expectations are for season 2.
Okay. It's 3 words. Relationships. Consequences. And holodeck. That's what I want for season 2.
Okay.
I want
All
I
right.
want more like exploration of relationships, and I don't just mean romantic, I mean friendships, and I just want more interpersonal, not necessarily, I mean drama obviously, but like these are obviously people who work very closely, and I don't know if there's a time jump between season 1 and season 2, or even
really.
how long this like the first season take, like the amount of time the show takes place over.
Yeah.
But,
I think there was a tiny bit of time in between season 1 and 2, but not
But
much.
I would say at this point, like, people have, feelings, and I just would like friendships and relationships, just any kind of relationships. I just want stuff to be explored. I want to learn more about the people.
Mm-hmm.
I'd also really love for there to be consequences to actions. Because we got a little bit last season towards the end, but they also technically aren't super lasting consequences except for Yar.
Mm-hmm.
It was like callbacks to stuff, but
Yeah, hers are pretty lasting
Yeah,
consequences, I
yeah.
would say.
but I would like there to be, I don't know, some more shit that's done that actually like carries on more throughout the seasons. And then I just want more holodeck shit. Every time they go on the holodeck, it's so much freaking fun. I think I've enjoyed every single holodeck thing that they've done.
Oh, wow.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I think even back in like the earlier, I don't remember if it's the first episode or what episode it was, but like Riker and Data are in like a foresty thing.
Oh yeah,
And
that was the
then,
first
like,
episode.
Yeah, and then Wesley comes in and Data like lifts him up and whatever. Even that, A+. Every single holodeck thing I like. And I'm really psyched to see, because like I also like the specificity that these people go for, and so I'm psyched to see what other weirdly specific idea that they want to do.
That's
So
fair.
yeah, that's my hopes for season 2. That's what I'd like.
All right. So, that's our season 1 recap, and I can't believe we got here.
Yeah.
To be honest, this started as an idea, Dory's idea actually, as like basically boredom of the pandemic.
Yeah.
And I can't believe we've just finished off season 1.
I'm bored. Let's watch Star Trek.
Yeah, exactly. So I really hope that you guys have enjoyed season 1. I really hope that you join us on our further journey for season 2, and we will see you next time on Fully Functional, a TNG podcast.
Goodbye.